Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Pretty good.
So Frank, was there or any of our lenders, was there any data on like price index today? PCE, I thought.
Yeah, PCA came in pointing to an ease of inflation, so it's always a good thing. Bonds are liking it just a little bit. The bond market is a little bit better than in the previous days. We've come down probably 10, 15 basis points, which eases pressure on mortgage rates. So hopefully rates will come down a little bit, but we're still in that holding pattern. It just depends on the day, depends on what the tariffs are doing, and it just depends on everything and how Wall Street reacts. So good news is yields are lowering. So once yields lower, rates tend to follow. So hopefully this is a little bit of a sign that rates are starting to come down a little bit. They're still off their mark that they were three to 4 weeks ago, but lower yields is better than higher yields for mortgage rates. So we'll just keep an eye on it. And, as always, we're just pre-approving the people that we pre-approved in the past just to make sure that they still qualify. And, that's kind of where the market is. So it's kind of a sideways road right now. So we'll just keep an eye on it, and hopefully rates will start to come down just a little bit.
I think that this is also part of the tsunami of cancellations. I think is Bobby Golden or Rob Durso on it. I think I shared with you like the publication. It was the highest since I think 2020, the first month of the pandemic, and I think it's a symbol of the fact that a lot of agents haven't been through challenging markets like this. And, with interest rates moving, I would assume that, Frank and any other lenders, your buyers who are stretched to the max are at risk if they don't keep their pre-approvals updated, right?
Absolutely.
So with the swing in interest rates, that could be what, a 5 or 10% difference in their buying power, Frank?
Their buying power, yeah, absolutely, and it could increase their payments by a few $100s. So that's why it's super important, and we do talk about this. Just keep that pre-approval updated, and that's make sure that they're still qualified to what we originally had qualified them for. So it only takes a few minutes to get pre-approved. So we'll do our best to keep those numbers up to where they are. But we talk about this, but let's just keep the train moving and those buyers pre-approved.
Gotcha. Thank you, Frank. I want to talk about today's kind of personal time efficiency and make some statements that you may agree with, you may disagree, you may want to use through the lens of how are employees behaving at corporate or government entities. But there's been studies that suggest that most employees and independent contractors waste 80% of their time because they don't know how to win the day and they spend too much time thinking about what to do. Does anybody have any reaction to that statement? Most employees and independent contractors waste 80% of their time. Does anybody see that as there's no way, or you say, hey, that seems reasonable?
I think it not only seems reasonable, but I also think they get pulled into social media a lot.
Yep, and it's a time killer, right?
Absolutely.
So I think we're probably as distracted of a society as we've ever been, right? I want to say that, people, glance at their phone or look at, text messages and emails and whatnot, something like 27 times per hour, right? You get a message coming in, you're looking at it, you get a phone call, like it's amazing that we even get 20% efficiency out of ourselves when, we have this instantaneous disturbance device called a smartphone. I won't candy coat it, and it's not a political statement, but I was listening and reading some stuff from Mr. Elon Musk. Whether you love him or hate him, I think we'd have to agree that he's been pretty amazing at being able to run, you know, several companies at the same time. And, you know, what he had talked about in the language is even consistent with, you know, who he is. He says, you know, there are two types of tasks that you can do, and one of them is mission critical. You know, and he says these items are, if not done today, the company moves decidedly closer to death. Okay, so if not done today, you know, your career is taking a big drop. Okay, and what's the single biggest threat to that priority? It's distractions. It's tasks that feel urgent and look shiny, but if you don't do them today, nothing happens. Nothing really changes. Okay, so his personal way of adapting to these known risks, you know, and you know, he's now the owner of X, so like that's constant, you know, noise with, you know, people posting things, and you can possibly get nothing done. You know, he says that you get up, spend the first 3 hours of your day with no screen, no noise. The first hour of it is creative energy, thinking about what could be done differently. You know, how can you reimagine things? He compares it to sprinting with no chains, owning your morning. You know, if you win the first hour of the day, if you win the first hour, it's easy to win the day. Okay. Productivity is not about discipline. And I kind of thought productivity was significantly about discipline, right? But productivity is more about clarity, right? Knowing exactly what you're going to be doing. And you know, he suggests that the more structure and simplicity you introduce to your life, the simple it is to have clarity. Plan tomorrow the day before. Okay, who plans their week like on a Saturday, Sunday, or Monday morning? Anybody? Anybody using that habit?
Rob, I started to, and truthfully, I was not as dedicated to it as I should be. So like you're saying, distractions got in the way and I got way off course, even though I had stuff, spelled out and dedicated for certain times during the week.
But don't you even feel, Bobby, that you know, the week starts off better when you have a game plan, right? You have a process. It's almost like a championship team going into a professional event without studying the tapes and doing their homework. You know, that's going to be one of the days they have a bad game. And I think if we take some time and we plan ahead, we know exactly what we're going to attack each week, our outcome is guaranteed to be better. If we focus on protecting the first 3 hours of our day, if we can win those first 3 hours when we're fresh, when we have the best thoughts, the best energy, nothing has derailed us yet, that allows us to win the day. And if you get completely derailed, nothing else matters because you've already won the day. You've done the mission critical items, right? He says, accept imperfection and adapt, because especially in our business, we can do everything right and the wheels can come off the bus, right? The train can get derailed, and that shouldn't control our state of mind. That shouldn't control our energy and our efficiency. The only person that can control your thoughts and your energy is yourself, right? And what you make of things that happen, right? Who's ever had a transaction that, you know, you're like, oh my God, this thing's never going to close, right? And then you pull it off, and the fact that there was a problem, you know, makes the experience better, and you got more referrals from that. Has anybody had that experience? And Mr. Garver, when that happens, it feels like, oh, this is horrible, right? But then when it,
Yeah, I always felt that that was the challenge to success, was when you come up against the issue that makes you think that this deal is not going to close. It's then the creative process that helps you come up with the solution. And it's dramatic, the impact on your personal feelings. And it's very impressive to your clients. You know, I don't know how you did it, but it was great. I'm so happy that, you were the agent, you were my agent, and I'm going to be telling all my friends about it. And that's not, I'm just not saying that. I mean, that's happened. So yes.
And I was listening to I won't mention the company's name, but a public company's CEO, and he said that your challenges are your opportunities to build brand loyalty, right?
Exactly. Yep.
When there's an issue that comes up, you're kind of defined by not how the uneventful goes, right? You're defined by how do you stand and how do you resolve things when the going gets tough. Okay, and he's, preaching to his employee base that this is what defines us. When there's a challenge, okay, that's how customers are going to analyze and decide whether they're going to be repeat customers or net promoters. And this CEO even used the NPS word, Net Promoter Score. And I remember when Mr. Garver was managing, he had one that was, we said that there's nothing perfect and 70% execution beats zero, but I do think you had a perfect Net Promoter Score. Wasn't that the case for a year, Mr. Garver?
Yes, it was.
And our founder actually called it out to our regional team that, there's some office in Rockaway that had like a perfect Net Promoter Score. Here's where it really hurt me. He said, open tabs and messy desks destroy efficiency. Open tabs and messy desks. I think I have a record. I probably need to be part of a support group for the open tabs. But do you feel that when you have like abundant open tabs, like you feel like your anxiety level goes up because you're working on too many things at once and you're probably not as efficient?
Yeah,
Anybody?
I definitely feel that kind of pressure. And whenever an issue would come up, I always addressed it immediately so that I didn't have it weighing on my mind as I tried to get through the rest of the day and the things that I had planned to deal with. So yeah, if anybody ever was sitting next to me and looked at my laptop, they'd see that there's no unread emails and only one tab open, for my sanity and for my ability to do the best job.
Yep. So there was a term which really makes a lot of sense and is connected with probably not the minute context that it was referred to, but when I look at opportunities and business acquisitions, I have a saying, and the only reason I have this saying is because unfortunately I was burnt very badly by it. So now it has more meaning to me. And I thank the person that burned me because now I've learned a valuable lesson. And my lesson is time kills all deals. Okay, like if you're in the moment that you want to, transact, right? If you allow too much time to get in the way, a lot of things can happen. They can talk to their neighbor, their nephew. They can, decide that the house they wanted to buy is not as good. They can lose their job. There's like a bazillion things that can happen when time gets in the way. So keeping in mind with the time kills all deals mentality, this individual says context switching costs 23 minutes of focus recovery. Okay. And he said it's from a Microsoft and a Stanford study. Okay. Because you have to mentally reload. So if I'm doing comps or I'm doing something, I'm doing my business plan and all of a sudden I get a text and I return a call, you know, if you're like me, it's hard to get back into where you were on the work that you were doing. Is anybody with me on that? You may think that you're super efficient at multitasking, but if you protect that first 3 hours of your day, you can avoid a context switching cost of 23 minutes to mentally reload to where you were. Okay. And the connection between transactions, very complex, you know, sale transactions when you're buying or selling a business, is you really start to get into what's going on, the momentum. And then if you put it down for 3 days, then you come back, it takes you an hour to get back to where you were mentally, right? Oh, let me see. I was looking at this. Oh yeah, that lease was an issue for me. When's that? Is there a option to, like you're in the zone, and when you leave the zone, it takes you time to get back in the zone. So distractions cost you more than the time of the distraction. It costs you the time to get back to where you were. Context switching is killing more dreams than anything else. Context switching is killing more dreams than anything else. So think about the consequence. Like, a lot of us want to know exactly if somebody posts something on Instagram or if you get a text message. Well, if you're on something that's incredibly important, like you're on a listing appointment for a $10 million property, okay, just want to get leverage on all of you. Are you going to be checking your phone? Or are you going to be completely focused on, you know, the conversation and the appointment on hand? Anybody? If you have a $10
In the
million
appointment.
listing,
Definitely on the appointment.
right? Because it's important, right? But if you protect your time when you're doing other mission critical items, then you're not going to allow yourself to get distracted. Okay. And that's going to help you to be more efficient, and also not only to be performing better, but to get a higher level of job satisfaction. Okay. I don't know. I would suspect that most of you that I know actually enjoy what you do. Okay. But you probably also have times when it's incredibly frustrating. So if you can limit the amount of mental energy that gets distracted on the frustrating points, because you're controlling your first 3 hours, it's going to change your life, right? What's the 80-20 rule? Who knows what that is? There's a couple of versions of it. Anybody want to give me a stab at the 80-20 rule?
80% of the business is done by 20% of the.
80% of people is done by 20%. Yep. The Pareto principle. And there's another Pareto principle, which is 20% of the time that we spend, we accomplish 80% of the results. And Bobby, would you agree with that? That you have certain times that are high impact in your career in terms of making money, and other times it's kind of just a necessary evil?
I agree with that 1,000%.
Okay. So if we acknowledge that 20% of our time that we work is getting us 80% of the result, then we ought to determine that 20% of the time should be that protected, mission critical first 3 hours of the day, where we don't allow people to interrupt us. Okay. You know, and if you even reimagine the way things get done, okay, you need to have a clean slate. You need to not be interrupted. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had a great idea, the phone rings, then I go back to it and I can't write it down because I kind of forgot it. You know, and maybe that comes with age, you know, maybe that comes with now that there's more distractions, right? So maybe when you have your morning hour, that you keep a pen handy so that you can write all these great ideas down. And then when you go into that 3 hour of execution, you know that you're going to not lose some really valuable nuggets. Okay. Protect your attention as if it's the most valuable resource that you have. Set designated times for distractions, because we're going to have distractions. We're going to have return calls. We're going to have all of those things, but there's nothing that's saying that we can we can isolate those items so that we can be more efficient when we're working. Okay. So the invisible force is momentum, and without it, you feel stuck, and with it, you feel invincible. The invisible force is momentum. Without it, you feel stuck. With it, you feel invincible. Does anybody have a time when you really had momentum and everything was going right? Now, is it the universe is just giving you a pass today, or do you think it's your mindset that you're going to just plow through anything in that day? I think it's probably 80% your mindset and 20% the circumstances, because there's always some issues that are not avoidable. But I think if you have the right mindset, you're like, oh, that was easy, I solved that. Instead of going around like this and saying, oh, Howard, what do I do with this? It's a problem. I don't know how to solve that. Right? So the invisible force is momentum. Without it, you feel stuck. With it, you feel invincible. Focus on what matters. Productivity is not about doing more. It's about doing what's important. Focus on what matters. Productivity is not about doing more. It's about doing what's important. Does anybody ever have this feeling? You get up early, you work all day. At the end of the day, you feel like you could still work another 4 hours. If you ever have that feeling, okay, I think work will continue to come. You can continue to respond to emails. You can continue. But if you focus on doing the most important things, okay, when you sign out for the day, when you're finished, you have that feeling of an amazing, unbelievable, productive day. Okay, avoid productivity, fake productivity. Okay, I love this one. Being busy doesn't equal being productive. Being busy does not equal being productive. Focus on building something real, right? Okay, being busy does not equal being productive. Prioritize one key task each day. Identify the single most important thing. And that single most important thing, if you accomplish it, everything else goes wrong, your day was a success. Focus on that single item in the morning. Do it first thing. Use the two list technique, mission critical and distractions. Okay, mission critical and distractions. Mission critical might be, hey, I'm getting all these home inspection items, resolved today, or I'm going to get this contract accepted today. Okay, time boxing or time blocking. Okay, helps you avoid being controlled by the forces of others. Right? Nobody can change your mindset, and nobody can interrupt your schedule. It's only when you allow it to happen. Design your environment to limit distractions and allow maximum focus. Right? Who wants to tell me what your hourly rate is based upon the amount of hours that you intend to work and what your income goal is? And I'm gonna say everybody should know this number at the top of their head, but what's your hourly value? Anybody? Mark Feingold, you look very stoic there. What's your hourly value? Can you hear us?
I hear you. I'm
All right,
sorry.
we can hear you now.
Okay.
So what's your hourly value there, Mark?
That's a really good question. I have not taken the time to do that math, but
You care to share with I don't know, 60 of your friends what your income goal is?
no, I'd like to keep that to myself, but
so if you have a $200,000 income goal, pretend.
yeah,
And how many hours a week do you work?
I work too many. I mean, I'm working
40,
every day.
50?
Yeah, at least 50 hours, I think. Yeah.
So 50 hours, $200,000, and give Mark a couple of weeks off. So 50 times 50 is 2,500 hours, 200,000 divided by 2,500. So your hourly rate's between $80 and $100.
Hmm.
If somebody picked your pocket and stole $400, would you be disturbed?
Well, I'd always be disturbed if somebody picked my pocket, but I wouldn't panic.
But if you allow people to steal your time, there's no difference between that and money. But if it was money, I think a lot of us would be more disturbed. But we do allow people to take our time without any consequence.
Right.
So if we can set those barriers where we have, the time that we're focused, we have the mission critical, and then we have the necessary time to deal with emails, distractions, whatever. And if you enjoy, Instagram and social media, and that's like a personal use of your time, don't fake it and pretend like that's all work, right? Because you can go down a rabbit hole. And is there anybody that in the past weeks lost more than an hour on stupid emails or social media? Yep. So only you can stop forest fires, Brian, and that's by protecting your time.
Agreed.
Elon Musk even said something that was profound to me. He's like, I dress the same every day, so I don't have to think about it. And that saves me time. I was like, wow, this guy is really, really deliberate on everything that he does. So, hey, I wear the same clothes, so I don't have to think about it. Minimize context switching, right? I never even heard of the word context switching before, but it makes a lot of sense, right? If you do something, then you pop to something else and you come back to it. It's not like that the continuum is the same. It takes the human brain time to get back into the context of where you were, right? So especially if you're working on something that's highly important, I think context switching might even have a more significant impact on it as opposed to if you're just responding to email. During one email, you go to the next one, maybe that distraction mode context switching isn't so significant. But if you're working on something important, then please just have a consciousness about that. Maintain your focus. The pitfalls of fake productivity. Busyness creates a false sense of progress and exhaustion without advancing your mission critical goals. Okay. The busyness creates a false sense of progress and exhaustion without advancing your mission critical goals. And I repeat this because I want it to kind of sit in your head there, because being busy and being productive are definitely not the same thing. We've all been busy and feel like we've accomplished nothing for certain days. And we probably can remember times when we've been productive and busy, and those are two different distinct items. Okay. Leaning into momentum, right? If you have momentum during that 3-hour window where you're protecting your time, distractions will ruin your momentum. It will change your mindset, and it will basically derail you. You should have a minimum ban on screens, news, emails, notifications for at least an hour. And I would even suggest that during that 3-hour window that you try to block out all of those distractions. And I've had people in my career where for years, and you might have known some people where they're like, hey, if you're calling me, before 11 a.m., I will be returning all my calls between 11:30 and 12:15 and between 5 and 5:45. Anybody ever, get that message when you called somebody? And to me, it's kind of annoying because I want that immediate gratification, but I can certainly respect that. And I'll respect it a lot more if they actually do that and they do return their calls during those time windows.
Hey, Rob, Angie,
Yep.
Angie put a great quote out in the chats. She said, if we work like we're going on vacation the following week, you'll really get a lot done. If we all work like we're going on vacation the following week, we'll get a lot done. Ever try to when you're planning your vacation the following week, have you noticed that your desk is clean? Everything is done on Friday and you're ready to go and clear your mind? I thought that was a great quote.
And Howard, I think that, and that was Angie Verstock.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Angie is wise beyond her time in the business, and she's been in the business, I believe, for a while. So I always learn something from Angie, but I would agree. And some of the most productive days you have are probably because your mind is in the space of getting everything done. For me, if I'm going away, I want to have minimum distraction. So I'll have everything laid out. Everybody that needs to handle something is taken care of, and that's your productive sweet spot. So that was a great observation. And Howard, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Designing your environment for productivity. Designing your environment for productivity. Here's where I think a lot of us have fake beliefs. Okay, I believe there are some people who can be highly productive working at home, but I think sometimes you need to get into a separate space in order to be productive. And I just want to bring awareness to that. I'm not saying that it's absolute, but I will say that you know, being in an environment that's conducive to productivity, avoiding distractions is something that should be focused on, not taken for granted.
So I have
Yes.
an agent that I know to be very successful, and he makes his calls every morning, first thing for 3 hours. And he walks into a room, closes the door, and does not answer any phone calls. He just makes his calls during that period of time, so he's not distracted. And then once he finishes his calls, then he'll respond to any messages that may have come through while he was on the phone. But the key to him is closing himself off, like you said, so he's not distracted.
Yep. So I look, I think if we employ some mission critical time every day, and perhaps we do a little bit of pre-planning for the week, I think number one, we're going to be incredibly more productive. And I think our headspace is going to be better at the end of the week and at the end of the day. Right. And I see Karma is here. Like, Karma is an incredibly productive agent. She attends most of these. So let me mute everybody because I'm hearing the background. So you know, Karma, been in the business. I'm gonna out you, Karma. You've been in the business a long time. I've known you a long time, respected you a long time. But if you, in the morning or whenever you do your calls, you get one great appointment, one great outcome, nothing else really matters, right? I mean, you could have, you know, horrible people hanging up on you. You could have, you know, things go sideways, but you've won the day already, right? If you get that outcome, and if you get it early, you know, I've been there, and I hope you've all been there. And you know, you just whatever else happened, you just brush it off. Is that true for you, Karma?
Yes, definitely. I do start my day in the morning for 2 hours, not 3 hours, from 8 to 10. And I sometimes I said, you know what, 2 hours, I didn't really get anything that I was looking for in the meantime. So in that day, I contribute another 2 hours in the evening. That is starting from, I should say, from 7 to 8:30 to just say, you know, I did not really see, as you said, being busy is not like being productive, but I have this 2 hour just for the business. Nobody bother me, I don't answer email, I don't answer anything for these 2 hours. The market
And
is a
Carmen,
little bit soft,
nobody,
but
nobody can pick your pocket. Nobody can
yes.
take your time when you block it.
Right, exactly, right. And I
Right.
just, and I took this actually the 8 o'clock. I used to do in evening hours, but I'm enjoying it more in the morning at 8 o'clock, more than evening hours.
Yep. And during that 2 hours, I'd say probably the majority of the time, it's easier to maintain momentum when you're controlling the activities that you do, as opposed to when you're responding to emails and, you know, checking text messages and everything else.
Right. I'm
Okay.
just concentrating. I am a lister. I like to list homes. So I concentrate how I can get listing for that particular, just an appointment for that particular date. But you know, it's the time is a little bit softer, but it does not really disencourage me. I do what I have to do. I feel guilty if I don't do it, but if I do it and I did not get anything, I am content. But if I did not do it, I will feel really bad. I did not do what I should do, and I mean to get that business. But with this market, you really have to extend your idea to different ideas, not just for sale by owner expired. You have to do other things also to bring more business.
All right. So and Carmen, this is probably what you're doing without even knowing it. But to sustain momentum, okay, the suggestion is creating a priority anchor. Okay, and that's the one thing that defines the win in the day. So if you have that morning win, you know, it's kind of like everything else is gravy because you've already, you know, accomplished the most important thing today.
True.
Building micro focus sessions, right? So if you're outside that 2 or 3 hour window in the morning and then you get back into it, you protect your time with a micro focus session so that you can't allow anybody else to impact, you know, how you're feeling or what you're accomplishing. And ruthlessly protecting your inner circle by distancing yourself from negative influences and drama. Okay. Stay away from the people who say, oh, if I can only get a break. Right? If somebody's saying that, you got to run. If I can only get a break. We make our own breaks, folks. And, you know, ruthlessly protect your inner circle and distance yourself from negative people. Because Tony knows you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, right? So.
Yes, yeah, that's true. They're the only people that you want to hang around is the people that you can learn or you can teach. They make you money or they make you laugh. The rest of them just say hi and goodbye. I'll see you later. And what about the how to be efficient? 80% of your time needs to be on creating business. 20% should be for the paperwork, you know, the clerical work. You know, you got to be able to create business every day, every day, every day. Otherwise, your business goes in the tank. You go up and down like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that at the base of all this is be consistent. Don't just do one day and then you disappear. The base of this is the heart of this is that you got to be consistent.
Yeah. And Tony, I'm going to even go a level further, and I'm going to guess that you probably do this, but you probably need to have some place where you plug into to charge your mind with positive energy. And almost all of the successful people, or at least the successful people I've gotten to know intimately, okay, they're readers, podcast listeners, they go to conferences, they invest in themselves. Okay, they don't have like an arrogance, like I'm gonna muscle my way through this by what I learned in 1997. They're adaptive, they're open, they believe in sharing, because I have a belief that, you know, everything levels out. Like if you know, Beth Steele goes and shares information and takes the time to tell somebody, here's what you can do, somehow the universe is going to pay that back to you, right? Somebody's going to come to you and say, hey, Beth, you ever tried doing it this way? Right? It's so crazy how that works. And it might not be the same person, but it's amazing how when you get back at least what you give, if not more than what you put out there. And I know it sounds crazy and it sounds corny, but it's true, you know. And I think you know, I see Mike Eisner there. You're telling me about like commercial business and how you got your journey to be successful. Are you there? Are you able to talk now, Michael? I don't know if you can talk anyway. So
Yeah.
Mike
You
was
gotta be
telling,
always open minded, and you gotta always be there to recharge yourself, even though it's the same thing, but you hear a different, that you hear different, and you react differently. So that's why you gotta always be recharging. Yeah, just
and part of the story I was going to mention with Michael Eisner is a lot of times when he was doing his commercial business in a real estate, residential real estate brand, a lot of the players would hear him with Remax, they think it's somebody that doesn't know anything. And he changed that whole paradigm by building relationships. So these things are, you know, really amazing, because sometimes if you do commercial and somebody's like trying to do a commercial deal that doesn't know what they're doing, it's highly frustrating. Okay. And it's not like there's a bias against, you know, residential agents, but there's a bias against incompetent people trying to do something that don't know what they're doing. And you know, he was telling me when we had our last happy hour how we switched that paradigm, you know, and you put it out there, and now, you know, he's making calls, people know, respect him, the brand, not only the Remax brand, but the Michael Eisner brand is something that is paying dividends, idea sharing listings. It's just kind of really refreshing to see how, you know, when you put something out there, you usually get something equal or better in return.
Hi, Rob, speaking for commercial. I do commercial in Mercer County, New Jersey, and Middlesex, in case if somebody's looking for commercial.
You got it. And Carmen, that's another thing. Like, you know, we have so much talent that if we can, you know, keep that referral business going back and forth, it just, you know, just elevates us by one further step and gives us another win every day. And our leadership team and myself, we do the best to try to, you know, connect people with, you know, you call me, you need somebody in Middlesex County. I know Karma for years, I can make that connection and everybody wins. Anybody have any key takeaways from today? Karma again. What was your key takeaway? I don't know if Abe, if you're trying to talk, you're on mute, sir.
A different aspect of the 80-20 rule, something
Yes.
I learned today.
Yes, the same.
I think the fact is the harder you work, the more results you're getting. Those people who work smarter work harder.
All right, Abe, can I share a secret I learned with working with you is,
Sure.
you know, I think Abe works a fair amount of hours, but I don't think it feels like you're working a lot of time, because believe it or not, even though you're constantly calling people and people cancel and reject you, I think you have purpose and enjoy what you're doing. So probably the days go by quicker. Am I accurate?
You know, many times you are. Sometimes when you get somebody who they say they're coming aboard, as you and I had, in the last second they go after you did everything right, and you say, you know what, you've done the best you can. Nobody can fault you for not doing the best you can. And that's what, and look, if you wake up every day and you say, what am I doing today? Create a possibility. That possibility is going to carry you through the day, period.
Yep. And Abe and I had a meeting last time I was down there, and you know it was a good meeting when the recruit was a highly productive, very well-known, respected agent, actually texts Abe and I back and saying, thank you for the meeting. And they want to know what the next steps are before I even got a chance to follow up. I'm like, that's killer. And how many times did she cancel on you, Abe?
Since November, about 7 times, and I didn't stop. I kept going forward.
Yep. So seven times, like Abe's like, we have an appointment, cancel. We have an appointment, cancel. We have an appointment. And it wasn't a no-show, but like, you know, there were proper cancellations, but you just never gave up. And they were very impressed with, you know, and I think they were genuinely glad that not only did they get a great pastrami sandwich at a deli, but it was a valuable meeting that we had together.
You know what? You never know what it's come to. When we have meetings like that, it goes beyond all the bad ones that fall apart. So at least we have something positive which we're working on. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for your input. Thank you for being there for me.
My pleasure. You inspire me, and I got to believe you enjoy what you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be as persistent and successful.
Me too.
Rob,
Yep.
this is, you know, summertime is really an interesting time to try to do business when you live in the South like we do in Arizona, and then you've got a really nice group of people that you're growing in Florida. But I'm trying to figure out exactly how we can make use of our referral opportunities going back and forth between these states. And you know, it dovetails with what you're saying about staying active and staying with the market and doing it every day. But as an example, we've recognized in Arizona that you can shoot a cannon through this place between June and September, October, because of the heat, et cetera, that we all hear about. And yet, fall and winter comes and we're inundated and we're busy. As agents, we're busy, and we're trying to get people into winter homes and their dream locations and all that. Well, doesn't it make sense that one of the things that the northern agents could do, as a message that you're sending out to your clients all the time, would be, what are you doing about your retirement home? And have you thought about shopping in the summer rather than in the winter? Go when they're not there. It's when the best prices are available. There's no competition. And, you know, our agents are more than willing to hand you as an inbound client, we're more than happy to hand you a set of oven mitts so that you can grab the steering wheel while you're out looking at homes with them. But, you know, a way to create some business would be, go to your client base right now and say, what are your plans for winter? The worst possible time that you can shop for a winter home is in the winter. Shop in the winter when nobody's there. Shop in the summer when nobody's there. So, you know, if you're looking for something to fill a little bit of time, keep in touch with your database and say, we're connected worldwide. If you're looking for a home in Florida, if you're looking for a home in Arizona, or if you know of anybody who is, call me first. I know the best agents. And that might absorb a couple of good days of time. A phone call following wouldn't be bad if you know it's an aging agent. And you know, I agree. We need to stay busy and we need to work. Oftentimes, I think, you know, we may not have the prospect list that we would like to have. Go out and make one. Create it from your database. And, you know, we're now a company of 800 agents scattered around 4 states. We've got all kinds of outbound opportunities for the people in the north and great opportunities for the people in the south. And let's make something out of it. Be creative.
Can I add this? Can I add also one to your idea, which is great ideas? My best time is actually, it is the summertime, because I create urgency for the buyer or for the seller. This is only for a buyer, only 2 months left. For the seller, is only 2 months left. You have to get more exposure to your home. That it does work for me. I hope will work for somebody else.
Sure. So Howard and Carmen, business, in Arizona, Howard, you make it seem like that there's zero business during the summer, and it's probably 45% less than it is in the peak, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay,
It just feels like there's nobody here.
right. But I want to stress a point here that, in my opinion, and this is 30 some years of experience in two aspects of the real estate field, being a lender and being in the real estate side. If you're doing all the activities, it could be the slowest month, it could be the biggest recession, and somebody's having their best month, their best time ever. And it's because they're not listening to the noise, they're protecting their time, and they're doing the activities that will get the results. Okay, if you spend 3 hours of quality prospecting time every day, it doesn't matter if it's summer, if it's winter, it doesn't matter regardless. Okay, it could be the holiday season. Some people take the holiday season from Thanksgiving until the second week in January. There's a lot of business going on during that period of time, folks. Real estate professionals eat during that period of time. Okay, so if you do the activities, you will have the abundance, you'll have the result that you earned and deserve, and it will be automatic. Okay, so I appreciate you bringing that distinction out, Howard, but there's still a lot of people doing business in the off seasons of wherever your market is, and it's dependent upon what you're doing. So if you just pack up and you call it a season and you go away for the summer mentally, then yes, you will do no business. But if you do the activities, you'll find that everybody else is gone, and now you have the world is your oyster.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, in terms of how do we, I think about that a lot. I'm not a runner like I know Glenn was trying to do a marathon, but that's not where I'm at in my life. But I like to walk and I like to think, and I think if there is some way that I could figure out how to almost gamify the process, or you put a referral in, the next referral we try to get over to you. And I think it probably naturally happens because if you give a referral somewhere, like if Beth gave a referral to somebody in Plantation, right? Then the next time somebody says, "Hey, I need somebody to have somebody looking to sell their mother-in-law's house in Arizona," they're going to be like, "Oh, Beth," right? They'll tell a colleague of theirs, "You got to give it to Beth." That's the way that it works. But I'm almost thinking if there's a way that we could gamify it, and even say, "Hey, the top 2% of all the agents who do referrals, we're going to invite you to like our team leader meeting, even if it's not something that you're not a team leader, but we have the gathering." And I think that that's a tremendous opportunity to network and to build upon these things, and to build connections where you might pick up the phone, not only call about a referral, you might say, "Hey, how do you handle this in Florida? How do you handle this in New Jersey if you're in Arizona?" Right? I mean, the laws are different, the norms are different, but Howard, you've been a big proponent of saying, damn it, we've been doing things in our own little box here. Having access to 4 states gives us a lot of variety and new ideas, right?
That's my belief. Yes, it is. Yeah.
And even one town over, Howard, we were talking to another Remax owner of how they might do things a little bit better than us, and they're sharing, and I mean, I was really grateful for that. Right?
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, last week I mentioned that, for a 3-day weekend, why don't we do some open houses? Nobody else is. Brian did an open house on Saturday. Then he said, these things don't work. Nobody ever comes through. Nobody comes through. Nobody's coming through open house. He had 6 people come through on Saturday. And Brian, didn't you have six groups on Saturday? And I think you had 5 on Sunday, something like that. Has he got an offer out of it? No. But he's got 11 new contacts that, if he wants to go to the beach today, go ahead. You worked over the weekend, your time is your own, but good for you, Brian. Good job.
Yep. In the holiday weekend, take advantage, less competition.
Oh, by the way, in the neighborhood, guess how many open houses were there? Goose egg, 0. The agent
Yeah.
took the 3 days off because, damn it, it's a vacation. Don't you know that? It's a holiday.
You know, one of the
Yeah.
things that can be done, and I've done in the past, so it depends on the climate I'm in, since I'm licensed in 2 states, and I would think Florida, well, Florida maybe not. But, you know, there are a lot of places that have basements, and we have a few, but not many. And I used to tell my clients, look, if we're going to look for a home, let's go when it's raining. It's the most miserable time in the world to go, but you will see if a basement is leaking. And if you have a basement, it possibly may leak, and it sounds ridiculous, but man, it worked. There was one incident where we had a property, then the disclosure, they had spent $40,000 on getting their basement stabilized, and it no longer leaked, and blah, blah, blah. And we went in and there was water pouring in all over the place. So, I mean, you look at the things that you think, oh, I don't want to go during this time or go during that time. But if you figure out what's going to be maybe a deterrent on buying a home, for them, that was always an amazing one. And then you find the right home for them, and they think you walk on water, pardon the pun. So it's worked out really well. So we look at those things that nobody else will do,
Yeah.
and then we'll win.
I agree with you. I said I have a story that I want to do an open house, and she said, Karma, it's raining. Who's gonna come in the rain? I said, listen, the one gonna come in the rain, this is the one I want because he has to buy. And
Yeah.
we had 2 offers in that particular day, and it was not really just raining, it was pouring. And he said, Karma, I have to close in 30 days. And she said, Karma, I cannot believe this. What you're telling me is true. I said, yes, this is the people I want. Just to share an idea also about the open house in the rainy day. So don't be disencouraged. Only the interest people that they want to buy, this is the time they come.
So Eric Todd Gatchell, who's looks like you're an astronaut there, Todd. You and everybody else, your mission critical is to spend your day trying to find a listing appointment every day. Because if you have a goal of getting a listing appointment every day, that can change your life in such a positive way. And if you're not comfortable preparing or with your listing appointment, if I'm in your state, I will love to go on an appointment with you. And I think it's because I have nothing to lose that everything always works out. And also because I just want to contribute. But if there's somebody that's interested in selling, and we have RE/MAX quality agents that have the experience and the integrity, we should win 99.9% of those times. Okay. And winning to me is not just defined by getting the listing signed. It's by setting the right expectation for a homeowner in terms of positioning the property properly so that it sells for the maximum price. It's about limiting the marketing time to have them understand that days on market kills your the execution and the sales price that you have. So mission critical, get a listing appointment every day, whether it's an hour, 2 or 3 hours. Protect your time. Let's go for it. Let's not let anybody else influence our headspace. Let's not let them steal 23 minutes by distracting us and having us get back into where we were. All right, everybody have a wonderful weekend. And if you need to hit me up for any help with the listing, or if I'm in the neighborhood, I'd love to go out on an appointment with you all. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye-bye.